was recently talking to a client that was remarking on the speed with which her organization implemented a new collaboration platform. What normally would have taken them months to accomplish, they completed in just a matter of days. Why might that have been? Well, the reason was they were implementing in late March, early April of 2020, when the realities of the pandemic were becoming a bit clearer to many of us in our personal and professional lives. The pandemic is an example of a contextual factor. These are things external or internal to the organization that can influence positively or negatively our ability to embed change in our organizations. And while many contextual factors are not as obvious or as urgent as the pandemic, they still are important to recognize so that they inform our choices of what we do related to change in the organization and how we do it. Now, research indicates that there's no one way to analyze our context or no specific list of contextual factors that matter in all changes. But this same research signals to us some things we want to keep in mind so that we're really considering our context when we're making choices about change in our organizations. The first of these is that we want to look for influential factors that will impact two things. One is the commitment of the organization and the individuals within it to the change. So how much are we committed to making this change happen in our organization? And two is about our confidence in our capability to bring the change about. So how much do we feel that we have what it takes to create and sustain this type of change in our organization? So we want to pay attention to commitment and to capabilities and the factors that might impact or influence those. I often think about this as looking for headwinds and tailwinds. So headwinds are things that might be working against us, that might challenge the change and we need to work to mitigate or minimize. And tailwinds are strengths that we have in the organization that help to push us forward, that we want to be sure to leverage in our choices and in our process of bringing about change in the organization. So we're looking for headwinds and tailwinds related to commitment and capability to bring about the change. The second thing to keep in mind is that contextual factors play out at different levels. We need to consider things outside the organization and inside the organization. And when we're looking internally, we need to consider things at the organizational, the group, and the individual level. So thinking externally, the pandemic is one example of an external contextual factor, but we might also look at the economy, competitive pressures, or even societal perspectives on the type of change that we're trying to bring about. When we look internally at the organizational level, we'll think about things such as the organizational climate or culture, the resources available in the organization to bring about change, the recent history with change, and the number of concurrent changes going on at any given time. At the group level, we want to consider what different groups are going to be strongly influenced or impacted by this particular change, and are there similarities or differences across those that we need to attend to in our change approach. So consider how well aligned this change is with the priorities of different teams, with their professional identities, and with their current level of capability and the capacity that they have to invest in this particular type of change. At the individual level, we just need to keep in mind that different individuals have different levels of openness, adaptability, or resilience in the face of change. And that's for individual contributors or staff members as well as for leaders. So we want to pay attention to, is there a baseline level of capacity? Do we see pockets of capacity in different places to help us inform the degree of support that we might need to provide, or that existing support that we can leverage to help move our change forward? The last thing we want to consider when we're analyzing our context for factors that can influence or impact our change is diversity of perspectives. When we only get the views from one level or from one position, we only see things from those particular perspectives. What we want to do is build a variety of different perspectives so that we can get a holistic view of our context. That gives us a better chance of really dialing in on the specific headwinds and tailwinds that we need to pay attention to in our choices of the type of change solution that we want to put in place, as well as our change management approach to support the embedding and the acceptance of the change in our organization. At the end of the day, it's all about getting results. So we need to know that our results aren't just a matter of the way we embed the change or the change that we embed. It also is impacted by the environment in which we are embedding the change. So we have to pay attention to context in every change that we do. For more on the art and science of change, visit wendyhirsch.com.